China has the world's highest savings rate simply out of fear. We work longer, retire later, and may not even live to collect pensions. Today, I want to talk openly and honestly. Why do so many Chinese people like me save obsessively and hesitate to spend money? Hi everyone, I'm Gui. I'm 36 years old. I grew up in a poor village, but now I live and work alone in a big city in southern China. I've been living like this for 7 years. I earn more here than I could back home. But long-distance travel costs are expensive, so I only go back to see my parents once or twice a year. Around the 10th of every month, payday, I do 3 things. First, I set aside 1,400 yuan for rent. Second, I send my mom 1,000 yuan for her living expenses. Third, I set aside about 1,500 yuan for my own daily needs and save everything left over. Lots of you said I'm a good daughter for sending money home. But by traditional Chinese standards, I'm not. Let's start with a key part of our mindset. We always brace ourselves for the worst. China struggled with extreme poverty for generations. Most families grew up with barely enough to survive. My mom told me she nearly starved to death during the 1960s. That fear of going broke or hunger is ingrained in us. Life is better now, but we still won't splurge. We all know hard times can hit out of nowhere. Here is a harsh truth most foreigners don't know. For thousands of years, Chinese people have had kids, mainly to support themselves in old age. Your children are your retirement plan. You feed them when they are little, and they look after you when you are elderly. This is an unspoken social contract. That's why families have long preferred sons over daughters. Sons stay with the family. They will marry, have children, bring wealth and social prestige, and support elderly family members. So, raising sons is seen as a worthwhile long-term investment. Daughters marry into another family and leave home. They are seen as a financial burden, someone who would no longer belong to their birth family. That's why many poor families make tough choices. If they could only afford to send one child to school, they picked the son. Daughters drop out young to work and send all their earnings home to pay for their brother's schooling. It's not that these parents are cruel, it's just a calculated risk. Like picking stocks, they bet on the choice more likely to pay off later. Because of China's former one-child policy, I'm an only child. So even though I'm a daughter, I got all the chances only sons used to get. I have to admit, the policy had plenty of downsides, but it helped girls like me. Sorry, I'm getting off track. Let's get back. In modern China, for many reasons, the gap between sons and daughters is narrowing, but the reality remains unchanged. Neither sons nor daughters can fully take care of their parents anymore. Take me as an example. I send money home every month. That sounds filial, but by the old standard, it's nowhere near enough. Because sending money is not the same as actually taking care of them. I'm not there to help with their daily meals and basic needs as they get older. Making sure they have food to eat, water to drink, someone to look after them. I'm not there to take them to the hospital or stay by their bedside when they are sick. I left home to make ends meet. If I stayed in my hometown, I couldn't make enough money to support them. For young migrants like me, we can't look after our parents and pay the bills at the same time. Most of China's parents and grandparents grew up very poor. They didn't leave any wealth to pass down. So today's young people, even though we earn a bit more than our parents, are actually one generation supporting 2 or 3 generations. We have to save for our own retirement, support our parents, and sometimes even help our grandparents. Then you might ask, doesn't the government help? It does, through the social security system. China's modern social security system is only about 30 years old. I don't know how long Western countries have had social security, but in China, it's a very young and fragile system. It works on a pay-as-you-go model. The social security money I pay each month doesn't go into an account with my name on it waiting for me to retire. It goes directly, right now, to today's retired elderly. Here is a detail many people don't know. Most of the retirees getting pensions today didn't actually pay into the system when they were young. Who are these retirees? Mostly former workers in state-owned factories, enterprises, or government units. Because they contributed to the country, the government counts their working years as if they had paid, deemed contributions. So now they get pensions. Some of you might ask, what about my parents? Do they get pensions? No, because they are farmers. Even though China calls itself a country of workers and farmers, farmers feed the whole country and build China's early economy. They are left out. That's why rural kids like me carry way more retirement responsibility for their parents.
你全身黑，谁都看不见你，把你压到那怎么办？
As for me, I do pay into Social Security, which is split between my employer and me, and deducted directly from my monthly salary. But whether I receive a pension and how much I can get depend entirely on how many young people still contribute to the system when I retire. Right now, China faces a serious aging problem. Birth rates are dropping, and the workforce is shrinking. Who is going to pay into Social Security? Who will sustain the system? The government's main fix is raising the retirement age. Simply put, we pay into the system longer and collect pensions for fewer years. The old rule was simple: pay at least 15 years of Social Security. Men could retire at 60, blue-collar women at 50, white-collar women at 55, then start collecting. For me, that meant I'd only need to pay for 15 years. If I wanted, after 55, I could choose not to work, live on the monthly pension plus some savings, and have a stable, happy, relaxing rest of my life. Sounds pretty good, right? I hear many countries have later retirement ages than China. But here's the trap. Many Chinese people may not even live that long because of overwork. China has a 996 culture, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week, which is very common in many industries. China's so-called economic miracle of recent decades came at the cost of young people's bodies and futures. We burn ourselves out for work. And now it's getting worse because of the delayed retirement policy. Take me. Now I have to pay at least 20 years of Social Security and wait until 60 to collect. So I pay more now, get less later. And this policy keeps changing. You never know if the finish line will be moved again when you're close. That uncertainty terrifies all of us. Also, as we age, our earning power declines. At 36, I'm already considered too old for China's job market. I've seen so many people struggle to find work after 35, not because they're not hardworking, but because the market always wants younger, cheaper, and more overtime-ready people. So if I lose my job, how do I keep paying into Social Security? I have no partner or kids to fall back on either. On top of that, millions of young people have 30-year mortgages. Most of their monthly paycheck goes straight to the bank. I can't afford a house myself, but every time I see these gleaming high-rise buildings, I feel mixed feelings, pride in China's development, and sorrow for my generation. Local governments sell land at high prices for revenue. Developers build tiny, cramped apartments to maximize profits. Young rural migrants spend their life savings on these tiny bird cages, trapped in decades of debt. Yet these bird cages aren't even truly theirs. It's getting harder to earn money, and necessary living expenses keep rising. So we are left with the simplest, clumsiest, but most reliable method, saving. We avoid unnecessary spending. We are terrified of getting sick because medical bills wipe out savings instantly. We don't dare quit emotionally draining jobs. All this pressure kills our desire to spend and enjoy life. You can see this shift everywhere. A few years ago, drinking Starbucks was a middle-class status symbol. Now, most of us pick Luckin, a local coffee brand that costs just $1 a cup. It's cheap, and no one feels ashamed buying it. The same goes for bubble tea. Drinks that once cost $4 now sell for $1 to $2. Brands that refuse to cut prices fail fast. We've stopped spending for vanity. Looking good doesn't matter when you have no emergency funds. Money deposited in banks is our only stable safety net, the only thing that will not let us down. At least, not for now. Sometimes I think our generation exists to make sacrifices. Older generations fought wars to build this country. We sacrifice our health and youth to fuel its economic growth. Ultimately, we save every single coin, not for fleeting material pleasures, but for the most basic human dignity. We strive to guarantee that when our working days come to an end, when family care is no longer available, and when public welfare offers no solid promise, our savings will be our last refuge. We only wish to have shelter against life's storms, simple food to keep us going, and to spend our remaining days in peace.
早结婚，早生娃，然后以后娃大了，你也可以解放，对，各有各的好。你就是想选择先解放，还是后解放而已？像我妈。